on Gamespot TV, we take a look at violence in gaming. Could it have possible links to real-life violence? We hear from game makers about the issue. Plus, we have a preview of the gothic role-playing game Vampire the Masquerade Redemption, which has created quite a stir. And everyone loves the long ball. Earn the admiration of others with our Triple Play 2000 strategy guide. So stick around. It's game time. Welcome to another edition of Gamespot TV, your ultimate guide to computer and video games. I'm Dash, your virtual game guide. Violence in games, especially in first-person shooters, has always been a controversial topic. And in the wake of the recent high school shootings, the game industry has received its harshest criticisms yet. So, should violent games be held partly responsible for the tragedies, or are they being used as another scapegoat? We examine both sides of the debate in this week's Spotlight.
Once again, the dormant debate over video game violence has reawakened. The issue revolves around the concept that violence in games translates to violence in the real world. Last April's massacre at the Littleton, Colorado high school fueled an anti-game violence campaign. Some politicians believe that killers Harris and Klebold got the training they needed to commit the massacre from playing the computer game Doom. In another school shooting in Kentucky, first-person shooters like Quake and Redneck Rampage were blamed as to have allegedly trained a freshman to be, quote, an extraordinarily effective killer. Of course, these allegations did not sit well in the gaming community.
It's very easy to attack the video game business. We're a new business. We're rapidly growing. We don't have the kind of political connections of the NRA or the movie business.
Some TV shows have used Sega's arcade game House of the Dead as an example to show how violent video games have become easily accessible to young children. Sega's president recalls one such show.
During that show also, if I recall, one of the reporters said that, you know, a 5-year-old child can come in here and play this game. I don't think so. A 5-year-old child can only get in there with the parent. And so where is the parent?
So in some deeply troubling cases...
And the debate has reached the top. Recently, President Clinton addressed an organization's concerns about the effects of video game advertisements on young children.
So we ought to think twice about the impact of ads for so-called first-person shooter video games, like the recent ad for a game that invites players to, and I quote, get in touch with your gun-toting, cold-blooded murdering side.
We think we can probably do a little bit better job in some of the kind of print ads that we see. We think we can do a better job in educating the public and parents about the rating system.
Lincoln echoes the general consensus of the game industry. That's why in 1994, the industry decided to regulate its games by adapting the Entertainment Software Rating Board system. And although enforcement has been an issue, IDSA's president, Doug Lowenstein, believes government intervention is not the solution.
I think it's very dangerous when the government tries to impose its taste, its morality, its standards on the general public. We think consumers need to make the choices. We need to empower consumers to have the information to make those choices, and we ought to keep the government out of it.
And what do the consumers think about the debate? 57% of the consumers in a study conducted by the research firm PC Data disagree with the concept that violent games create violent players. At Bolt.com, a teen-oriented website, the majority vote was no way. As expected, U.S. senators like Jack Wagner have contradicting studies and research of their own linking violent video games to teen violence. So far, the debate has turned into a war of rhetoric and research. The solution, many believe, begins when we start looking inward.
I think developers should be responsible and at least have some forethought in what they're creating and what might, you know, how it might affect people playing, kids playing.
Agree or disagree, opinions will vary. Violent video games could be the cause of a violent society. Then again, it could also be the reflection of the world we live in.
Recently, President Clinton ordered the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission to investigate how the video game, music, and movie industries market violence to children. We'll keep you updated on the story as it progresses. And now, let's check the game news.
The computer gaming industry experienced the wrath of the crippling Worm Explorer zip virus. The virus, which has affected employees' Microsoft Office documents at Electronic Arts, Microsoft, Sega, and others, is spread via an email attachment. When activated, the file, named zipped files, begins deleting Word, Excel, and PowerPoint documents while simultaneously emailing itself to other people in the recipient's address book. The companies quickly shut down their clogged servers in order to install proper defenses. The best way to protect yourself from viruses like the worm is to verify that attached files actually come from a trusted source. It was a sad day in the world of online gaming recently when beta testers and Microsoft's much-anticipated Asheron's Call gathered for an apocalyptic end to the world they'd helped create. 6 weeks into the online RPG's assay, Microsoft wiped the entire test servers clean, including the character database, in order to upgrade the beta version. Players gathered in one area of the vast virtual world to say farewell to their experience, hard work, compatriots, and enemies.
Coming up on Gamespot TV, think you can triumph over alien bugs and save the universe? We have a preview of the upcoming N64 title, Jet Force Gemini. And remember your helmet and leathers. We have a review of the motorcycle racing game Super Bike World Championship when Gamespot TV returns. Welcome back. When it comes to consistency of quality, Rare sits atop a rather small heap. GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, and the upcoming Donkey Kong 64 are a few of Rare's titles, and here's a look at another upcoming game from these British developers. We have a preview of Jet Force Gemini.
You may recall those days when 8 and 16-bit games focused more on blasting a lot of enemies. Well, Jet Force Gemini from Rare and Nintendo may bring back the magic for the N64. The game comes from the same development team that made Diddy Kong Racing and Blast Corps. You're a member of a team of operatives known as Jet Force, and you're set to stop some unpleasant invading alien bugs. The game plays in areas where a certain number of enemies must be obliterated before exits open that allow you entry into a stage. The game itself is made up of 120 stages. Early on in Jet Force Gemini, one of your tasks is to find parts of Floyd the robot, who will allow you access to a 2-player co-op mode where the intensity of the action and a number of enemies will increase accordingly. Look for Jet Force Gemini late this summer.
Blowing up alien bugs and saving the world sure can be fun. And where else can you find a robot named Floyd? Our next game may not have alien bugs, but I guess you don't need that in a motorcycle racing game. All you really need is speed! You'll definitely find that in our Superbike World Championship. We have Virgin Interactive's Superbike World Championship on the grill.
You might expect Superbike World Championship to be just another arcade-style racer, a fun, flashy game with nothing in common with the sport it simulates. Fortunately for motorcycle enthusiasts, this game is a winner. There are 5 bikes to choose from, and each is evenly matched, but offers a slight variation in instrumentation, engine noise, and color scheme. Players can also modify their bike chassis, transmission, suspension, and tires for optimal performance. But as with most racing games that allow you to modify your vehicle, it's best to leave things alone, unless you know what you're doing. Graphically, Superbike is stunning. The tracks, bikes, and riders all look great, and even the distance rendering is pretty good. And fantastic animations for crashes and turns make the game very lifelike. Unlike arcade racers where brakes are optional, Superbike is all about finesse and control. Most of the tracks are very curvy, so you must slow down to take the turns to move ahead of the pack. Unfortunately, one of the game's notable flaws is the AI. The computer-controlled drivers don't always pose much of a challenge. Superbike from EA Sports has a lot more going for it than a fancy 3D engine and a thumping soundtrack. Super gameplay and a substantial dose of simulation-style realism make this one of the best motorcycle games to hit the PC in a while. Michael Ryan of Gamespot.com gives Superbike World Championship a rating of 8.2 out of 10.
Now, shifting gears from the speed of your bike to the speed of your brain, we have a puzzle game. For all the Hello Kitty fans out there, and I'm not just talking to the people that got them for free at McDonald's, we have Hello Kitty's Cube Frenzy on the grill. Personally, I'd rather hang out with Bots Maru.
In this era, when puzzle games are being held in low esteem, comes the bright, shining luminescence of Hello Kitty in Hello Kitty's Cube Frenzy from New Kid Co. While it may appear to be a Sanrio cavalcade for the little sister gamer, those who still yearn for a good old puzzle game may want to check this out. The game has a story, sort of. Hello Kitty is living out that vacationing fantasy of kicking back on an island when Bats Maru comes along and sends her to a world of gleaming cubes that fall from the heavens. Hello Kitty runs back and forth semi-controllably, and you guide her with the L1 and the R1 buttons. At the same time, you also guide the falling cubes to clear columns and create bridges for Kitty to traverse and collect the various items scattered about and annoy Bats Maru. While it may seem to be mere saccharine kitty fodder, Hello Kitty Cube Frenzy does become difficult and quite devious, and is an extremely long game for the solitude-seeking, serious puzzle gamer. If you can get past the treacly images and the snickers of Silent Hill buying compatriots, or have the appropriate appreciation for kitsch, it's worth checking out. Christian Nutt from Videogames.com gives it a 7.6 out of 10.
Wow, what do you say after a review like that? If you want to read the full review of Jet Force Gemini, on the other hand, go to the Videogames.com website. And if you're interested in learning more about Superbike World Championship, be sure to check out the full review on the Gamespot.com website. Coming up on Gamespot TV, make sure you have a cross and some garlic handy. We have a preview of the PC role-playing title, Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. And help save Wally from the Queen and her hordes. We have a preview of the 3D title Centipede when Gamespot TV returns. Welcome back. From Bram Stoker's Dracula to Anne Rice's Lestat, vampires have intrigued people with their immortality and lust for blood, not to mention their rugged good looks. Our next game from Nihilistic Software should have you running for some holy water. We've got a preview of Vampire the Masquerade Redemption.
No telling yet, but you might manage to refine your sense of gothic ambition with Nihilistic's and Activision's Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. The game is based on the White Wolf World of Darkness tabletop RPG. It begins in the 12th century with you playing the most undead knight Christoph, who unfortunately becomes embraced by a vampire and becomes one himself. The game then takes place in modern-day London and New York, where he becomes further embroiled in the intrigue and treachery that affects the various vampiric clans. The game appears to be staying true to the principles in the pen and paper version of the game, especially the turning of the game inwards as you try to have Christoph hang on to what little is left of his humanity. The game will be multiplayer capable and will involve the participation of an online game master, similar to the Dungeon Masters of yore. Look for Vampire the Masquerade Redemption to come out of the shadows at the end of the year.
You know, I think vampires really suck. Our next review is a revamped Centipede for the PlayStation. The original Centipede was one of the most popular games of all time. Retro gaming is still popular, and many classic games of the 80s are being remade in fabulous 3D. So does Centipede 3D live up to its predecessor? Let's find out as we throw it on the grill.
When it comes to gaming nostalgia, Centipede ranks up there at the top of the memory heap, so it should come as little surprise that a 3D update of the game has arrived on the shelves. It should also come as no surprise that it just doesn't have the magic of the original, although it can stand on its own. This time around, Centipede comes with a story. You play Wally, who must pilot the shooter to save you and your fellow wee people from the Queen Pede and her vile hordes. And also in this updated version, you have better tricks at your disposal. You're able to upgrade your main cannon, fire secondary weapons, and use shields. At its heart, though, this is still the same game as before. You turn centipedes into mushrooms, blast spiders, and try not to touch anything dangerous. The game's controls are a little different. You're now able to roam around the entire 3D environment, and the game engine makes strafing very easy. The graphics in the game are adequate, and only really come into their own when you play in the close-up view. The music is nothing to scream about, yet the sound effects are carried over from the original game. Centipede also includes a port of the original game, but it suffers by comparison. The graphics are worse, and the frame rate is low. What Centipede teaches us is that nostalgia gaming is about vector graphics and a simple control scheme. It feels as if Centipede has latched itself onto extinct gameplay that has taken what could have been a great shooter into the hollow of mediocrity. Ben Stahl from Videogames.com gives it a 5.3 out of 10.
Those centipedes really make my skin crawl. Is anybody else in here itchy? Well, anyway, here's a trivia question for you. The celebrity spokesperson for the Intellivision system was... Who is George Plimpton, of course? I'll take whoopee for 1,000. This next review is for all those classic gamers out there. We have Intellivision Lives on the grill.
I bet it's great doing all those Intellivision commercials.
Do you have warm, fuzzy memories of the Intellivision and its 16-directional disc pad controller? Intellivision Lives from Intellivision Productions is a travel back to the days before the Atari collapse and 3D cards. Back to the days of pure gameplay and the Blue Sky Rangers. Included on the CD is all the information you would ever want or need on the Intellivision, its hardware, its developers, and Mattel Electronics. Intellivision Lives features 75 different playable games, all of which are completely stable and work equally well on low-end PCs or P3 450. The sounds, while not ultra-modern 3D audio, exhibit the same clean-cut quality as the graphics. They're loud and clear. The games have held up quite nicely over the last couple of decades, and the blocky graphics have aged well and maintain a certain charm.
Introducing Burger Time, the home video game where you're a chef.
Overall, Intellivision Lives is a well-balanced package that contains a great deal of history, personality, and classic games. If you have any sort of interest in the classic gaming consoles of the 70s and 80s, it's an excellent value and well worth a look. Andrew Park of Gamespot.com gave Intellivision Lives a rating of 8.4 out of 10.
Which game was included with the Atari 2600 system? Do you think you know the classic consoles? Come by the Gamespot TV website at ZDTV.com/GamespotTV and take our retro gaming quiz. Coming up on Gamespot TV, we have the latest hardware picks from Computer Gaming World's Dave Salvatore. And baseball isn't all home runs and popcorn. We have a Triple Play 2000 strategy guide for those players who spend more time striking out than sliding into home when Gamespot TV returns. Welcome back. Hey, have you ever played with magnetic planar technology? You haven't? Well, Dave Salvatore has. I'm hinting, of course, about what's in today's Game Gear.
Cambridge Soundworks seems to have set the trend in PC speakers lately, moving everyone towards small satellites with a base unit at your feet. But the guys over at Monsoon Multimedia have a slightly different take on things, and it's flat. What? Monsoon uses what's called magnetic planar technology, which comes to us from the hi-fi world, and it's been there for years. So what does magnetic planar bring for gamers? Well, one of the characteristics of these speakers is that their stereo imaging tends to be very tight, which means they do a good job of rendering the sound stage, but you kind of have to keep your head in the sweet spot. Now, where this comes in handy is for rendering 3D positional audio in games like Half-Life and Thief. If you kind of have your head right in that sweet spot, these speakers do a good job of rendering that 3D positional audio. The M700s do a very good job both with musical material and gaming audio, but they are a little bit pricey. There are speaker offerings out there from Yamaha, Cambridge, and even Boston Acoustics for less money that do a good job. But if you're an audiophile and listen to a lot of CDs on your PC, then these might be a good fit.
Well, that little lovable hedgehog Sonic has never looked so good. This week's intro is from Sonic Adventure for the Dreamcast. Sonic Adventure is slated to be released in the U.S. this fall. Now, if blue hedgehogs aren't your thing, how about baseball? If you'd like to win the All-Star level in Triple Play 2000, you're in luck. Yep, because we got some expert gamer strategies.
So, you think you're the man? The big kahuna of video game baseball, huh? The All-Star difficulty in Triple Play 2000 for the PlayStation might just slap that silly grin right off your face. Because while standard techniques might work peachy in lower difficulties, All-Star is a whole new ball game.
Throw it first.
The first tip from our expert gamer friends is to recycle the pitchers every 3 innings. Watch out for signs of weakening. If a pitcher's stamina meter turns yellow, don't think. Take him out. All-Star computer batters will rarely chase after bad pitches.
Another ball.
And an All-Star game requires solid performance, especially in fielding. The strategy here is to go for the sure out rather than a double play or a bionic throw to home base to save a run. According to Expert Gamer, the players and the ball in Triple Play 2000 move too slow to pull a double play, so stick to the out. And of course, there's nothing like hitting the big one. You want to be the PlayStation version of Sosa or McGuire? The trick is timing. The computer throws curves, sliders, and off-speed pitches early to get players in the hole.
Curveball down the middle. Pickoff attempt at second base.
So stick with the contact swings. Once it gets behind, the computer tends to pitch the fastball. This is the time to pull out the power swing. As always, there's more to winning an all-star game than these 3 tips. But stick with these tips, practice, and you can't go wrong. You won't get a shoe or a hamburger deal in the process, but what the heck, you can pretend.
It's going, home run!
With that strategy guide, you will definitely see some improvement in your game. Do you have a gaming question or a cheat to share? Visit our Gamespot TV website and post your comments on our message board at www.zdtv.com/GamespotTV. That's it for today, folks. But remember, when you think you're playing too much, play more. See ya.